This conference will now be recorded.
Hello Shiva, this is Karthik.
Hey, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How about you?
Good, good. Thanks for asking.
Okay. So, guys, how many people are here? Eight. Okay. So, can we have quick introduction, guys?
Yeah, sure, Shiva. Hey, hi, Shiva, this is Upendra, Shiva. I'm working as a ETL consultant, like Informatica and SAP Business Objects, 10 years of experience.
Hmm. Okay. Thanks, Upendra. Sri. Okay. I don't see he's talking. Raghavendra. Venkata.
Hi, this is Venkata Siddham. I just logged in to understand what is AWS, and I'm curious about the DevOps. So this is Venkata here, Venkata Siddham,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm from logging in from Detroit.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Venkata.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Raghavendra, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I think I was my mic was not on. Raghavendra here from Ottawa, Canada. So
Mm-hmm.
interested to learn DevOps further into that.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Banu Siddham. Okay. So, guys, all of you are from Canada, right?
Some of them are in US also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Fine.
Shiva, hi, this is Raja speaking.
Yeah, Raja. Okay, guys, let's get started then. Let me introduce myself.
Shiva, sorry, can we give like 3 more minutes?
Yeah.
Sorry.
People are joining.
Yeah, people will be joining.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Then I'll be back. I'll be back in a moment, guys. Okay, just give
Yeah,
me 2 minutes. I'll be back in a
sure,
moment.
sure. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Hi, who joined the call?
So what guys, what is happening? Can someone keep speaking whether we are alive or not?
Yeah, we are alive. We're just waiting for others to join. Just give us 2 more minutes.
Yes.
Thank you. Shiva, if you are back, we can start. Hi, Lakshmi Garu. Hi, Shiva. If you're back, then we can start the session, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
So Raj, can we start?
Yes, we can start. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Sure, Dilip. Thank you. Thanks for the update. Yep. So, okay, guys, let's get started. So let me introduce myself. One moment. So let me introduce myself. Shiv Prasad. I'm currently working as a cloud and DevOps consultant, guys. And training is a part-time that I do. I have been training people on various technologies, right? From I should say 7 years. From past 7 years, I'm training people on different technologies like Linux, VMware, cloud like AWS, GCP, and then DevOps. In DevOps, my primary skill set is into Docker and Kubernetes, along with building CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so today I'll be covering like what DevOps is at a very high level. Okay, along with AWS as well. Like I heard someone saying that they're looking for AWS as well. but I will try to balance both, like what is AWS, what is DevOps, what are we going to do in this, and all. Okay. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay. So again, before I start, there are a few people joined. Anyone has any questions? Okay. So then let's get started, guys. If no questions, yep. So DevOps basically, is a term that is derived from two teams, I should say, like development and operations. So when we talk about DevOps, that is where the change of skill set has come. When we talk about DevOps, it's something where we need to understand how the development happens, and as a developers, it's their duty to understand how the operations work. Unlike traditional methods where the operations team were completely different and then development team was completely different, where they never got a chance to talk to each other, because of which there were a lot of conflicts in place. Whereas with DevOps, most of the conflicts were resolved. Okay, and we'll see how they got resolved and how this DevOps culture came into picture and all. So different people define DevOps in variety of ways. There are different things, but basically DevOps by Wikipedia, DevOps is a software engineering culture and practice that aims at unifying software development and software operations. DevOps aims at shorter development cycles, increasing development frequency, more dependable releases, in close alignment with business objects. So the main purpose of DevOps lies in this, guys, like shorter development cycles, increased deployment frequency, and more releases. Okay, this is what a DevOps is logically mean. DevOps is first a culture of collaboration between developers and operations people. So if you look into the story, this or anywhere in the software industry without DevOps or Agile, there is no way that operations team has an idea to interact with development team, and neither development team got a chance to interact with the operations team till the product is built or being released. Okay, so whereas DevOps has changed that thing, where in DevOps people started or people collaborate with each other right from the beginning of the project, where operations team is involved in every decision that development is taking, and vice versa, so that the operation team is aware of what is happening in the development, and development team is also aware of what these operation guys are actually doing. So this culture has given rise to a set of practices. DevOps is a grassroots movement by practitioners for practitioners. And what DevOps is not, so DevOps is not a tool. So the other thing, the other myth is like, whenever we talk about DevOps, we say that there are a lot of tools available, but see, we are achieving strategy of DevOps by using various tools, but DevOps is not a tool, by the way. Okay, so DevOps is not a standard. So there is no standard, guys. So in simple terms, DevOps is a methodology. Okay, so what works best for me might not works best for you. What best works for a company doesn't work for the other company. Okay, because they are not standards that we are defining. The process of developing the DevOps strategy may vary from client to client. Okay, vertical to vertical or department to department. And DevOps is not a product, and DevOps is also not a job title. So we don't have a DevOps, but we talk about DevOps consultant or senior DevOps. This is other thing, but it's not a job title, by the way. So we'll be talking about these things. But DevOps essential, a brief history of DevOps, like where it has started and all. So before I start, any questions so far?
In demo, you will be like touching a bit of AWS concepts also, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes,
Just give me 1 second.
I have one question. So you mean to say that DevOps is not like any kind of a application, right?
True.
Okay, right. Go ahead.
Yep. Wait, guys, give me 1 sec, please. So let us understand the brief history of DevOps, by the way. Like agile software development. So how many of you are aware of agile, guys? Yes, no. So guys, your answers will help me understand where you stand, and that will be easy for me to explain things. Okay. So basically, DevOps has all started with agile software development, guys. So if I don't know if you are aware of it, but I'll talk about it. So whenever we talk about software development life cycle, there are different methods available. Okay, so this is like process that we use for getting started with any project. Example, waterfall model, V model, RAD model. Like this, there are different software development lifecycle models which are traditional, but there are a lot of flaws in this waterfall model or these things. Okay, RAD model, but to overcome these things, that is where people started using agile. Okay, so what happens in agile is that in agile all the development would be happening in small chunks, and every like with a span of 4 to 6 weeks depending on the project life cycle. Like 4 to 6 weeks of time is what they take, and between these weeks they write the code, they test the code, they release the code. Okay, and verify if all is okay or not, and they also give a kind of demo to the client. Once this is done, they start the second sprint. They call it sprint, which will also last from 4 to 6 weeks. This is how the software development is. So this is becoming more popular during those time. That is where the concept of DevOps also came into picture. Okay, simultaneously agile seeks to develop software in small frequent cycles in order to deliver functionality to customers quickly and quickly respond to changing business goals. Like the main purpose or main agenda of agile is to release the code quickly and respond to the changes quickly without any issues. And DevOps and agile often go hand in hand. But people always get confused that DevOps is agile and agile DevOps. Not really. DevOps is more of a project oriented thing, and I mean agile is more of a project management thing, and DevOps is more of a technical aspect of deploying the code and all. So a small timeline. So 2007, agile software development was gaining popularity, but it was also suffering from a growing divide between development and operations. Patrick Dubois is a guy in 2007, an engineer with experience doing both dev and ops, was doing testing on the project and became frustrated by huge divide between dev and ops. So the story behind is that, guys, this Patrick Dubois was a manager working for one of the firm where he was like kind of a manager, and most of his job on a daily basis included resolving the conflicts between development team and operations team. Okay, in the sense, like every day he goes to office, he joins calls, because this guy is aware of how development functions. He is also aware of how the operations team also works. Okay, so most of the time he was in continuous calls talking to both DevOps development and operations team and resolving the issues. At some point he decided that why is this happening, why, what am I doing? And what he did was he created a team where he picked up few guys from development team and he picked up few guys from operations team, and he gave some task to them. Now this team is called as DevOps team, where they started working on the project. And when this DevOps team started working on the project, most of the conflicts were resolved by themselves. There was no issue at all, and he could see a drastic change in the process of developing the code and the deployment that were happening. So that's when he, along with his friend Andrew Schaffer, met in an agile conference, And when he spoke to the rest of the managers in the conference, everybody started complaining the same thing, saying that our job includes resolving the conflicts between development and operations. So that is when by 2009, in an agile conference meet, which is velocity conference, along with John Allspaw and Paul, along with 10 plus deploys per day, so they started this concept called DevOps. Okay, so Dev and Ops cooperation at Flickr. Patrick was watching via live stream. People began discussing it via Twitter. So October 30, 2009, Patrick hosted the first DevOps day in Ghent, Belgium, a conference for both Dev and Ops engineer, and the conversation continued on Twitter with hashtag. Now that is where this DevOps has started, guys. Okay, DevOps grow into organic grassroots movement all over the world and sprout many tools to support the practice valued by DevOps. So as of today, the DevOps movement has not been stopped, and it is growing since 2009 and is no longer a small niche movement. So it became mainstream, spread a large variety of tools, completely changed the IT industry forever. Okay. Any questions? So this may look irrelevant, guys, now, but trust me, these are very important to know. Okay. So most of the time, when even people working in DevOps are not sure what DevOps is. Okay. So the goal. Okay. So this is also one of the main reason for the success of DevOps and what DevOps is basically. So DevOps more emphasis on collaboration between the teams. That's the main purpose of DevOps, guys. Okay. Between the team and the dev and operations. If you look into the normal thing, so the development has to be faster, in a sense. If they are given a task of deploying a change on your website or the application, they are supposed to do it immediately without any delay. And operations team responsibility is to make sure the applications are stable, they are up and running without any hassles, right? That is the target of an operations guy. So this is the biggest change. Now developer doesn't bother about stability, and operations guy doesn't bother about speed when they are in a normal teams. But when things are in DevOps, both development and operations have the same goal, which is speed and stability. Which means even if operations guy has to work with development and development has to work with operations to make sure the code that they are deploying is faster, speed, and it is also stable. Okay, so DevOps has brought both these teams onto the same goal, which is speed and stability. So the goal of DevOps culture is to dev and ops are playing on the same team instead of a different teams, and dev and ops share the same goal. They have the same goal now. So these goals include things like fast time to market, like how frequently are you going to deploy new changes to the production code, few production failures. When the code is released to production, the issues should be very minimal, and you should be able to fix them without any delay, and immediate recovery from failure. What is the contingency plan that you have to overcome a failure scenario? Okay, so these are the main goals for every DevOps teams that we have. The goal of DevOps culture. DevOps is about dev and ops working together. In DevOps culture, devs care about stability as well as speed, and ops care about speed as well as stability. So they are on the same goal, by the way. The traditional roles of developer and operations engineer can even become blurred under DevOps. And instead of throwing code over the wall, like dev and ops work together to create a and use tools to process that support both speed and stability. So far, whatever we discussed is kind of a method, but how are we achieving these methods is by using various tools. So DevOps recognizes that Dev and Ops are more powerful when they are together. A small story for you to understand what changes are happening in traditional silos and DevOps. So usually the devs, that is the developers, write the code and they send it to QA, and QA verifies the code. If it's not working, they bounce back the code. And nowhere in the system, like, developer is not aware of what QA is trying to do, and QA is not aware of what developers are trying to do, and the blame game happens across them by throwing the code over the wall. Okay, for developers, QA is a black box. For QA team, development is a black box because they don't know. Okay, so code bounces back and forth between dev and QA as QA discovers problems and devs fixes them. Finally, it is ready for production. So now QA and dev throws the code over the wall to operations. Now once the blame game between these two is done, the next thing is to they have to release the code, they send it to operations. So there is a problem, right? Ops throw it back over the wall to dev, and again the code gets deployed to operations, and operations finds there is an issue, and they give the code back to developers, and each group's domain is a black box to other group. Our systems are fine, it's your code. Our code is fine, it's your systems, right? This is the blame game that happened because development is really not aware of what operation guys does, and operation team, the developer say that my code is working in my local laptop, why it is not working in your system? Okay, and the operation team is like, our systems are not your laptops, we have a different set of things to do, and make sure your code is compatible with our systems. This is the kind of blame game that happens, guys. But the code works on my machine, like, that's what they say. So dev and yep.
Raghavendra here. Can you go back to that previous slide, that picture? Yeah, so you have the developers, QA, and operations. I think referring back to your previous slide where you mentioned about Agile and DevOps together, developers and QA team is where Agile methodology gets defined, where they work together, right? Now, when DevOps comes, it said it works hand in hand with Agile. So DevOps is actually all three teams together, right? It is not just development and operations.
True.
Okay, so then the Agile is developers and QA, and of course PM or Scrum Masters involved. Then DevOps includes all of them together, including the operations team. Is that
exactly
correct understanding? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
So dev and ops are black boxes to each other, which led to finger pointing. Like, because ops is a black box, devs don't really trust them, and ops doesn't really trust dev. Dev and ops have different priorities, which puts them against each other. We are just trying to discuss the traditional methods here, guys, traditional silos. Ops view devs as breaking stability, and dev sees ops as an obstacle to deliver their code. Because like, development teams responsibility is to release the code, but ops is actually blocking them, saying that your code is not compatible with our systems. So even if they want to work together, dev is measured by delivering features, which means developing changes, and ops is measured by uptime, but changes are bad for stability. So the op team, like, okay, my code is stable now, I'm not going to deploy your code, I'm not sure if that works or not, right? This is a kind of attitude that we maintain as a ops team. So downsides of traditional silos: black boxes led to finger pointing, lengthy process means slow time to market, lack of automation means things like builds and deployments are inconsistent, and it takes a long time to identify and fix problems. But with the DevOps, the story has completely changed, guys. So devs write code, code commits, triggers, automated build, integrates and tests. QA can get their hands on it almost immediately. Once it is ready, kick off an automated deployment to production. So all of this works in a one single manner, like build, integrate, test and deploy. So we don't have to be involved in any of these areas. So the moment the developer commits the code, all of these stages will be automated. Since everything is automated, it is much easier to deploy while keeping these things stable. Deployments can occur much more frequently, getting features into hands of customer faster. And once the deployment is done, an additional thing is gets into place, like monitoring. So the last deployment broke something in production. Fortunately, automated monitoring notified the team immediately, and the team does a rollback by deploying the previous working version, fixing the problem quickly. An hour later, the dev team was able to deploy a fixed version of the new code. So this is what it is, guys. The moment there is an issue, everybody in the team is notified there is an issue, and we are going to roll back to our previous version, which is stable, and developers are going to fix the problem, and then they release the code. This is how a DevOps team basically works, and this is the whole idea. In case, even if person who has started DevOps and they are not at this point, they are still in process of improving their pipeline. Dev and Ops work together to build a robust way of changing code quickly and reliably. Both Dev and Ops work together to prioritize both speed of delivery and stability. Automation led to consistency. Okay, so building, testing, deploying happen the same way every time. So we are not doing things manually there. And building, testing, deploying happen much more quickly than more often. Good monitoring plus the swift deployment process ensured problems could be fixed even before user notifies. Dev and Ops work together upfront in build good process. And even though a code change caused a problem, user experienced a little or no downtime, because that's how the deployments will happen seamlessly, guys, without any downtimes. So with DevOps, we have happier teams and happier customers. Happier teams and tech employee tend to be happier doing DevOps than under traditional silos. More time innovating and less time putting out fires. Devs don't feel like they have to fight to get their work out of there. Like operations people don't have to fight dev to keep the system stable. So happier customers, DevOps lets you give customers the features they want quickly and don't have to sacrifice stability to do it. So this is a kind of introduction, guys, to what DevOps is. Those who are not aware, like the story it has started, what are the changes that it gets, the difference between traditional methods and DevOps methods. So any questions so far?
Can you please tell us how much coaching is required for a non-administrative guy for a DevOps to be understood properly?
So when we say non-technical guy, my assumption, like, let me also show you a picture here. Okay, this is a kind of a DevOps tool set that we have, guys. Okay, like it's a general software development lifecycle, like say planning, coding, building, testing, deploy, operate, and monitor. So whatever you see on the left hand side, whatever you see here, this is what we call as continuous integrations, and this is what we call as continuous deployment. So the main goal of DevOps is to build at least CI/CD pipeline and understand it. Okay, the CI/CD process. So at least one of these tools you should be aware of. Like, let's say example, when we talk about Codebase or planning, like Jira is something which is most widely used, and Codebase we use Git. For building, Maven is something that we use. Testing, Selenium, or the idea you need to have. So Jenkins is okay. Okay, here we talk about Ansible, and then monitoring, like any of the monitoring tool. Like these tools you should be aware, and all of these tools mostly they are built on top of Linux. So what I would say is, undoubtedly, in order for you to get started with DevOps, Linux skill is mandatory. Okay, that's a main prerequisite, I would say, no matter what you're into. you could be developer or you could be something, but if you want to get into DevOps, Linux is mandatory. Along with Linux, okay, we also need some kind of infrastructure knowledge. So when we talk about infrastructure, it's like where are we deploying our code, right? Where are we deploying our applications? So our applications are running mostly on Linux, but where is this Linux boxes running? So these Linux boxes run on clouds such as AWS mostly. So that is where we say that we need AWS as well. Okay, with DevOps, these tools. So this is what the prerequisite would be, to have Linux and AWS. So Linux, whatever is needed for us to get started will be taught in the sessions.
Okay, let me reframe the question. How much knowledge should a project manager stroke a scrum master should have, or a program manager should have on DevOps?
I should say a zero. See, Scrum masters have got nothing to do with DevOps, by the way. See, the way the story works is that the main job of a Scrum master is to gather requirements from the client. Okay, they are the one who are going to create a user stories, and they collaborate with the team. Okay, team in the sense like there was a question. We have a team of developers, we have a team of testers, and we have a team of operations team. So all of this are going to be a part of your Scrum calls. Okay, let's say you are talking about developing a module within a software, right? So this module, whatever the code that developers has developed, has to be tested, that has to be released and checked if it is working as expected or not. So your Scrum master should be aware of the whole idea. He should be owning the product, but you don't have to be much of, because technically there is nothing to do with agile. So
Uh,
it is.
hold on. Let me intrude here. It is not the case, whoever is speaking on the DevOps, it is not the case. I agree with Bhanu that whenever they are asking, especially in the interviews or this kind of a thing, the Scrum Master, they are asking for the DevOps. Do you have the DevOps experience or DevOps this thing? And it is always going in par with the Scrum Master should know the DevOps knowledge or whatever. I mean, can you elaborate, Banu?
Yeah, in many of the what do you call interviews and discussions,
Mhm.
they expect us to have a full-fledged knowledge about DevOps. I know where you're coming from. We need not know that Linux and coding and whatnot. I don't know what is really involved in that Linux part of it. But we need to know the periphery of what exactly is happening, like what you've told us between the operations team, for example, and then the development team, and then the QA team. So that's a good way of giving us purview of what exactly is happening. But they are expecting us to know something more than this. This much, whatever you have told just now, is well understood by us as a Scrum Master. But whatever, I mean, they are expecting me to know something else and explain, say, about another 10, 15, 10 more minutes or 5 more minutes, as it would have.
Okay.
They are deep diving into that particular subject. But I agree with you that it may not be required that I need to know the Linux and coding and all that. But I agree with the other gentleman who just spoke. I think we should definitely have some knowledge about DevOps so that we can at least pass through the interviews, if not more knowledge.
Okay, understood. So see, I understood the ask exactly now, right? So the thing is, as a Scrum Masters again, like you are not going to be like. I just want to understand the scope now. This is very new that people are asking a Scrum Master to know the DevOps strategies. Okay, that's something new that came up to me. So, are we talking about technical aspects, or at least we should be knowing the process of how these things happens? let me tell you my way. Like when I interact with my Scrum Master, like the way things work here is, we have a CI/CD pipeline built, okay, which means the complete code CI/CD is built, and there are various tools involved in place, right? We have Git, we have Jenkins, we have Maven, and we have Sonar Cube, we have like a Docker, and then Kubernetes and some monitoring system Grafana. So this is entire thing is what we call CI/CD pipeline. Okay, we have a Scrum Masters, and now this Scrum Master's responsibility is to like we have some user stories that gets assigned in terms of uh, you know streamlining the process that we are having, like improving the process of CI/CD by adding new features. That's one thing. The other thing is that we also get kind of issues that end users raises, right? This Scrum Master responsibility is to align with the right team and redirect the issues to whoever is having skill set on specific things and work on. Okay, so I think in that case, it makes some sense to understand, like you should understand the entire aspects of CI/CD, the stages that we a typical CI/CD involves, and then look into it.
Bang on, bang on. This is what they're asking. Exactly.
Exactly. Yep. Understood.
I just want to
So
add to that, Shiva.
yeah.
Raghavendra here.
Can you repeat it again? Hello, can you repeat it again, please?
See, I think now as a Scrum Master, your job may be more of a client facing, and you must be something who is involved in interacting with your team, right? So when you're gathering the information, you need to know what are the kind of changes that you should be doing in your process, that is CI/CD process, to improve your alignment. Because ultimately, it is a Scrum Master who is going to redirect or direct the entire team to what they want to get through, right? Let's say I have this complete CI/CD pipeline in place. Now client is asking for kind of modifications, in the sense maybe the code is taking like 1 hour to deploy and they want to bring this time down to like 15 minutes. So what is that best we can do? Like as a Scrum Master, he should be knowing the process in order to understand what changes could actually make the code deployment from 1 hour to 15 minutes. So as a part of this, I think it is fair to say that even as Scrum Master, you should be knowing the technical aspects of what are the phases that are involved in complete CI/CD pipeline and how they interact with each other and how the collaboration happens.
So you mean to say that Scrum Master should be a technical person too, or?
That's what you guys actually, diverted me to. Actually, that's not the case, but I believe that is how the industry is going towards. Because when you told about this is a thing, I referred back to my Scrum Master, like what she does, and this is what she does.
No, no, I think you're right, Shiva. I think that's exactly what is required. And once we understand the exact the process, entire process of CI/CD and what happens in the entire process of whatever bifurcations that you've done in the system just now, I think once we understand what happened, I mean, at what stage what happens. So I think that is that's enough for us. We need not deep dive into the coding part or where the
Exactly.
problem is and things like that. Let them solve the problem, but at least we should know the process about all.
Yep.
Yeah,
True.
I
Yeah,
think you're right.
yeah, Shiva, just want to add that. Raghavendra here. Just want to add to this one. I think the complexity get increased because in the realistic scenario now, the Scrum Master is also a PM. Like PMs are playing a role of a Scrum Master. So as a part of
True.
from the development till the operation, you building that CI/CD. So as a PM who's managing and also playing as a Scrum Master, managing the entire project, so they should be aware of the process, not into the deep technical knowledge, but at least aware of the process, how it works, so that because when they run the project, right, they know and they factor in the schedules involved and develop the plan accordingly.
True. I see both the situations are true. Like I said, DevOps now the industry has become in such a way that they want a Superman, guys. Okay, who is actually good and well versed with everything. But
Yeah.
I cannot draw a line and say that okay, having the managerial aspects of or knowing the upper layer of DevOps, what it is okay. That works for some clients. But some clients say that have you ever worked with a team who actually has a core DevOps strategies? Like we cannot be blank on that case. So that, like I said, it works for one client, may not work for the other client. It's always good to know the deep roots of how things are happening, where you will be confident enough to explain what like where you stand whenever you talk to the client. Like Siddham was talking, right? Or someone was talking that they ask you to talk. Most of the interviews when you go to DevOps, even as a technical person, they ask you like, what is your approach of DevOps? What do you think a DevOps is? Why do we use DevOps? But as a technical person, do you really think I really bother about those things? For me, as a technical person, I need to know where the problem is and I can fix that. But these kind of questions also, these are more of managerial questions, isn't it? But they want to understand your attitude towards the change, like how things are working and what is your approach, like how good you are well versed with the concepts and all. That's it. So I cannot draw a line like Venkat was talking about and say that okay, this is what they are looking for, this is what they're looking for. Got it?
Thanks, Shiva.
Yep. And any more questions, guys? I see only managers talking. Any technical persons here, like who are core technical, and do you have any questions?
Shiva, I think to add this diagram in the interviews, I think nowadays they're asking about promoting the pipeline from non-prod to prod.
Hmm.
That is also like another key thing that they're like asking, how do you do that, especially with the Docker and Kubernetes.
Yes.
10 minutes.
We'll see those things in the sessions, guys. Basically, see, like I said,
Okay, sure.
the strategies might vary from client to client. See, what I would say is, as a DevOps engineer, our job is to understand the tools properly. Like you should be knowing in and out of Docker. You should be knowing in and out of Kubernetes. You should be knowing in and out of Git. Now, when you go to the client, they just building CI/CD, they tell you that these are the things that I am supposed to do. Like I need to involve some testing, I need to involve some approval process. That's where the CI/CD process vary. But these tools will not change. The way these tools works will not change. So some go with Git flow workflow. There are different workflows mechanisms available. Like they have environments called dev, test, prod, and pre-prod. They'll ask you questions like, okay, I have a code in dev. How are you going to take the code to test? How are you going taking the code to production? What is your deployment strategy? How frequently do you release the code? These are the kind of questions they ask you. Okay. So, but I'm hopefully all of this will be covered in the sessions. Okay, you don't have to worry on that.
One more question, sure. Like whatever the tools we are discussing here, right? Hope it is all open source, right?
Yes, all are open source.
Thank you.
Yep. So coming back to AWS, guys. So any questions here before I move to AWS? Like since people are expecting something on AWS. Okay. So DevOps can work on any environment. When I say any environment, it could be deployed on-prem. We can do it with AWS. Like we are using now AWS as the infrastructure. That means we use Amazon services such as EC2, S3, RDS. Like